Welcome back to Doc Talk and Eastlink TV. I'm Dr. John Gillis. And I'd just like to take a quick moment to acknowledge that this is our 100th episode on Eastlink TV, 100 times we've done Doc Talk. I'd like to really thank you, the viewers, for being here for this, and to the wonderful staff here at Eastlink for putting this on for these 4 years. It's been a lot of fun, and I've certainly learned a lot, and I've appreciated all the feedback from you, the viewers. So hopefully we can keep it going for a little while longer. So moving on to a very important topic today. Our topic today is losing a child, the grieving process, which is a very deep topic, and I'd like to welcome Deborah Anthony to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Deborah, you're here to share something very, very personal with us. In 1984, you lost your daughter, Erin Margaret, to a tragic accident.
Yes.
And that's affected your life a lot. You've written a book about it, which we're going to show our viewers. And but I think more importantly, you've done something wonderful, is put your thoughts down for other people, so that if they go through something tragic, that they can get some comfort and some help from it. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, and thank you for taking on the topic.
It's very much a pleasure. Would you hold up your book just so we can show the viewers earlier what we're going to be talking about?
Sure.
So this book is called Recapturing the Joy, which I think is a very it's a perfect and elegant title for what we're going to talk about. That, on that day, you lost so much and had to put it all back together. And there's a website if people are interested in learning some more, which we'll talk about at the end. But could you tell us what that is now?
Sure. The website is www.recapturingthejoy.com.
Okay. So obviously this is a very painful thing to talk about, and I admire you for not only the work you've done here, but for coming here today. Can you tell us about that terrible day back in 1984? What
Sure.
happened?
Yes, it was a Thursday, December 6th, 1984, and I was a working mom at the time, married, had 2 girls, Erin, age 6, and Heather, who was almost 5, just 4 months shy of turning 5. And I was at work, and my girl's babysitter came to my workplace to let me know that Erin had been in an accident and she was on her way to the hospital, and that I should probably head into Halifax. So I went up to the office, and before I did that, I realized that she was dead, and actually verbalized those words to my babysitter. I remember turning around on the stairs. I was working in a shopping center.
You just knew?
I just knew.
Mother's intuition.
Yes. I just turned to her and said, "She's dead, isn't she?" And she said to me, "I don't know."
Oh.
So I went up to the office, got my coat, called my husband quick, and called our pediatrician to head over to the hospital, or asked her if she would, in case Erin was conscious, there would be someone there that she was familiar with. And we headed in and arrived at the emergency. And I have to tell you, there's a very special breed of people that work in ER. And I met a number of them that day, and my heart, I still have a big piece, my heart goes out to them. Because when I arrived in the ER, and I've been there a few times, with the children, ear infections and whatnot, but this particular day they took me directly from the main waiting area into a separate room. And I knew then that what I had felt when I was standing on that step was about to be revealed. And our doctor came in and let us know that they had done their very best, but she had passed away. And the next question was organ donations.
Just that, you've gone from everything's fine, I think my daughter may be gone, now I know she is, and boom, there's that question that quick. Wow.
Yes, and simply because the time.
And it has to be done, of course.
It has to be done right away. And that's another special group of people, the people that take care of those questions and those procedures. And I remember saying, yes, by all means, anything that can be given, we will gift. And she looked at me and said, well, that's very generous, but the only thing we can use are the corneas. And I was, you have to understand, at this point in time, I really didn't know what kind of accident Erin had been in. I just knew that she was dead. I didn't really have any details. And so when she said, well, we can only use the corneas, then my questions started coming, well, why is that and what happened? And that's when I found out the accident had involved her school bus on her way home.
She'd been hit by her own bus.
Yes. Yeah.
What was that like to hear? I mean,
well, it was the fact that she was hit by the bus, or
right.
that
I mean, what goes through your head? I mean, how could she possibly be hit by her own bus? I guess would be what would go through my head. But.
Yes. You know, how could that happen? And I was it's like a big, dark, black cloud. You're being asked questions, you're getting information, it's registering at some level.
But it's not processing.
But it's not
at
making
the
sense.
Real level.
Yeah.
So were you alone at this point?
No, my husband was there
arrived.
at that point, and the babysitter. Of course, she was there because she had taken me in to the hospital.
That's, I can only imagine. I mean, as I mentioned, I have a 14-month-old, and I've been on the other side of it, seeing a tragic loss of a child in the ER, and you mentioned the staff there. I mean, that's, in my line of work, you know, when an elderly person dies who's had a long life, it's tough, but there's some comfort in that. But, you know, from a healthcare person's perspective, there's no comfort in seeing a child
Yes.
like that, and I can only imagine, you know, what you must feel and felt then. So, I guess, what then? You know what the reality is. The business, I guess, of organ donation and such is done.
And do you want to go see her? That was another piece that was very challenging for me.
What did you do?
I didn't go in. Our doctor said, you know, would you like to go see her? And my husband said yes right away, and I said no. And then I looked at my doctor and I said, it's funny how your mind and heart work in those circumstances. I remember looking at her and saying, no, I don't want to, and does that make me a bad mother? I remember saying that to her. And she said, no, she said, that doesn't make you a bad mother. You've never been a bad mother, and you need to do what works for you.
Absolutely.
Right? And then my next question to her was, should Heather go to the funeral? You know, when I reflect back, it's odd to me, the things that just kind of...
what was happening was real emotion, and that's what was in your mind and in your heart, and obviously,
yes,
it's real. It's not wrong. It's just real.
And I was in a brand new world. I was in a world where I needed to ask some questions because I'd never been there.
Absolutely. So you're there. You decide not to go see her, and it's time, I guess, to go home. And,
yes.
You know, what went through your mind then?
Well, going home, I was very quiet. My husband was very emotional, very angry, a lot of tears, a lot of pounding his fist on the steering wheel. And, you know, you turn the radio on and it's on the radio and you're thinking, how can all this be happening? Because we haven't even sat down with Heather yet and, you know, put it all together. And so we got home, and then I was really angry when I got home and I remember her brownie guidebook was on the kitchen table, and I immediately picked it up and just threw it and said, won't be needing that anymore. You know, you just, and then I kind of had to calm down because Heather was coming home.
And you had to face
yes,
a 4 3/4-year-old wondering, you know, where's my sister?
Yes, she wanted to know where is my sister and where is my best friend.
Absolutely. Little girls are, you know, obviously siblings are so close.
Yes.
When we come back, I'm going to take a break now. Really want to get into your book. I mean, and we're just going to sort of take it loosely as you've written it, talking about some of the, you know, maybe obvious things, maybe less obvious things that you went through immediately and as time passed. So,
okay.
Right back on Doc Talk with Deborah Anthony. We'll see you in a second. Welcome back to Doc Talk on Eastlink TV. Dr. John Gillis here with my guest Deborah Anthony, talking about very personal and a tough topic, talking about how you tragically lost your 6-year-old daughter, Erin Margaret, in 1984, and heard what that was like at the time. But the book you've written, which is wonderful, Recapturing the Joy, talks in loose order about what you went through, what you've gone through since that time.
Yes.
And I think it's, would be very useful and very important for us to share those things with our viewers and sort of bounce around a little bit. But
Sure.
I think it's, powerful, what you've written and how you've done it. Chapter 1 of this book is called The Nitty Gritty. Tell us what that means and what that's about.
The nitty gritty relates to the very mundane day-to-day things that happen inside the four walls of a home, whether that have to do with meals, laundry. It's the chores and tasks, the things that tend to get us down, that quite often perhaps we would complain about before we had any kind of tragedy in our lives. However, after a tragedy those thoughts we used to have can create burdens for us.
Right.
You may find yourself at the grocery store picking up food that you no longer need to buy.
Somebody's favorite food. Or
Yes. And you get to the cash register, and we tend to beat ourselves up about doing that instead of just recognizing that that's a very natural thing to have happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the book is designed to help people recapture their joy of life. Therein is the title. Because when someone we love dies, we lose that person. However, my experience in interacting with other bereaved parents, I've observed that it's very difficult to recapture the joy of life. So the purpose of the exercises is really to help them recapture their joy of life.
Moving on from, I guess, the nitty-gritty is the aftermath, and I guess they relate to each other, is, what to do about certain things that, need to be
Yes.
dealt with. Can you tell us about what you experienced?
Yes, and again, it brings up a whole list of very simplistic things. What to do with their room, what to do with their things. You might get calls months later. They might be due for a dental appointment, a doctor's appointment, perhaps their health card needs renewing. It can be a wide range of things that have to be taken care of, and it's easy to think, I've just done with the last one, and a week will go by and something else will pop up, because it's amazing how many, and especially if you've lost someone who was still in school or has outside activities, there's all kinds of loose ends.
So what did your family do with Erin's room?
Well, Erin and Heather shared a room.
Right.
And I left the room as it was for quite some time. If you were to ask me how long it was, I probably wouldn't be able to recall that right now. I do know Heather was my focus. I didn't really want to change it right away. And I think I listened to her when she was ready. I think I let her know to just come to me if and when she wanted to make any changes.
Did you have lots of people kind of telling you how it should be and what you should do?
Oh, yes.
How did you deal with that?
I graciously received what they had to say, but inside of myself, I knew that the decision would come to me
Right.
in my own time, and I needed to just pay attention to me and those that were living in the house.
In terms of Heather, I mean, the book goes on to talk about maintaining a fluent family, and so we'll talk about your husband, your partner in a minute. But this has got to be incredibly traumatic on a 5-year-old who's old enough to, well, almost 5, old enough to reason to some degree, but not really old enough to really understand. Would that be a fair?
Yes. When she, perhaps I'll just go back for a minute to the day of. When Heather arrived home, she immediately went in and turned TV on. It was about 10 to 7, and she said, I have to finish watching the rest of, I think it was Simon and Simon. I said, okay. And I just let her go, and I just let her be. And then she came out about